Welcome to my channel dedicated to real-life stories. This is the first video on the channel, and I hope you like it. Today, we will talk about the Black Decade, and I will share various stories from this period that Algeria went through, covering different regions of the country. Don't forget to support us by liking, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell, and also by leaving your comments. Your opinions matter to me, whether positive or negative. The important thing is to know what you think. I accept all feedback as it is, and I hope the person sharing the story does as well. This is the first story I will be telling on my channel. It is a story from the municipality of Remke in the Relizane province, specifically from the Ouled Jalali village. This area is located about 90 to 100 kilometers away from the province's center, in a mountainous region that belongs to the Ouarsenis mountain range. It is an isolated forested area. The people of this region suffered greatly during French colonization, and later, the Black Decade brought even greater hardship due to terrorism. I had been working in France since the early 1980s until the early 1990s. I lived a stable life there and worked in a factory. However, in the early 1990s, I decided to return to my homeland, especially after my father passed away. I thought to myself, I have land here, and I can work in agriculture and livestock farming instead of living in exile. Life in my country, close to my children and family, is better for me than being far from them. I returned to Algeria and settled down, but shortly after, maybe a year or two later, tragic events began as terrorist groups became more active. We started hearing about killings all over Algeria. These groups would move between villages, sometimes attacking them, sometimes looting weapons, and sometimes killing residents. Over time, terrorism reached our area, and we started hearing about armed men moving through the nearby mountains and forests. At first, the armed Islamic group, GIA, was responsible for these attacks. When the government became aware of their presence in our region, they summoned the residents of remote villages, especially those in isolated areas. They called us to the National Gendarmerie headquarters and informed us that they would provide us with weapons under the self-defense program so we could protect ourselves and prevent terrorists from infiltrating our villages. We received weapons and started monitoring the situation, but the attacks did not stop. They would come from time to time, knocking on doors to demand weapons or money. Some people handed over their weapons under threat, others paid them money, and some chose to return the weapons to the state out of fear of the consequences. One night, while I was sleeping at home, a group of terrorists came specifically looking for me. They knocked on the door violently and my wife opened it. They stormed inside and asked her about me. She told them I was not there and had gone somewhere else. Then they told her, "When he returns, tell him he must give us the weapon or pay us 7 million Algerian dinars, or we will come back." When I returned home, I found my wife in a state of extreme panic. I tried to calm her down and said, "Don't worry, they are just terrorists trying to intimidate us, but we will not give in to them." A few days passed after that incident. Then, on one particularly cold and foggy night, I was checking on my small orchard, where I had planted 100 trees, and I saw that the water had washed some of them away. I sat there looking at them with sadness, but I said to myself, "This is God's will." At that moment, I spotted a Peugeot 404 moving slowly along the road next to the valley. The sun had just set, and I could see 6 men inside, 3 in the front and 3 in the back. They were armed, and I immediately realized they were terrorists coming for me. I ran to my nephew and told him to take the women and children to a safe place. Then I went to the stable where I had hidden my weapon. I was with my eldest son, and we waited for them to get closer. As they approached the house, one of them climbed over the wall. The moment his feet touched the ground, I shot him, and he fell dead immediately. My son then fired another shot to make sure he was eliminated. Then the others approached the door and started banging on it violently. We quickly ran out and shot 2 more. taking them down. The remaining 3 fled towards the trees. The fight between us and them lasted for about an hour. They thought we would be scared and run, but we fought bravely and managed to eliminate them all. After that, I noticed a small truck coming towards us. I knew it wasn't over yet, so we hid in the nearby trees to observe the situation. The truck reached the village across the valley, and we overheard them talking to the residents. It was clear they were asking about what had happened, and they soon found out that their comrades had been killed at my house. A short while later, they returned to my house in greater numbers and started firing heavily. The walls of my house were riddled with bullet holes, but they found no one inside, so they set the house on fire and looted everything, even the food and supplies. That night, my family and I endured the freezing cold until morning, when we saw that our home had been reduced to ashes. After that, we sought refuge in Remka, where the authorities provided us with temporary shelter for about 12 to 15 days. Then, we moved to Relizane, where I settled with my family. Later, I returned to Remka, where I was appointed as the deputy mayor, and I was provided with a weapon to help protect the residents. The hardships continued until I lost my wife, and I couldn't even attend her funeral because of the dire security conditions. This was the story of Haj Taher, a story that reflects the immense suffering Algerians endured during the Black Decade, a period whose scars remain deeply embedded in the memories of those who lived through it.